welcome to the highlight show for round 2 of season 6 of the GT3 Championship, hosted by Apex Online Racing. This week's round will take place at Suzuka, but before we get to that, let's have a quick look back at round 1, which took place at Monza. And it was Jason Dyer who qualified on pole position, leading out from Ivar Kangsepp in the Honda NSX. Matt Cooley in the Bentley was in 3rd place, and as lights turned green on season 6, they went down to the first chicane of the Rettifilio, and it was Jason Dyer who got too much curb there, and it was Matt Cooley who went through. Kangsepp dropping right back on the first lap, and there were more incidents coming out of the Rettifilio chicane. The driver ended up in the forefront of a shot there, Luca Ziga, spinning right out, causing quite a bit of damage to his car, and another driver actually had to pull out the race. Further on lap 1, going through the Ascari chicane, the Lamborghini speared off into the wall and bounced back into the track, and the knock-on effect of that on the straight, there was a mass pile-up involving 3 cars who were definitely heavily damaged. But at the end of the first lap, it was Matt Cooley who'd gone through to 1st place. Jason Dyer, having caught that curb, slipped back to 2nd, but it was Kangsepp who dropped a long way back and immediately started making progress back up through the pack, passing cars left, right and centre, including this battle coming down the main straight towards the Rettifilio chicane, with Jamie Ellis. Kangsepp getting on the inside for the Rettifilio, making that place stick, making another place up. Just one example of many passes Kangsepp had to make to get back up towards the front of the field. Meanwhile, at the front of a race, going into the Rettifilio chicane again, Cooley outbraked himself, had to take to the grass, and that allowed Dyer through. And Dyer moves to the lead of the race, reclaiming after getting pole position. Cooley slips down into 2nd. Then just a few laps later, coming up to the Variante della Loggia, Cooley again outbraked himself, possibly having trouble with his tyres at this point in the race. Ended up going across the escape road, and that allowed Hinsley through to take 2nd place away from Cooley. But just one lap later, it was Hinsley's turn to make a mistake going into the Variante del Reggio. This time sliding wide into the gravel, and that allowed Cooley through to retake 2nd place. These two battling throughout the entire event. Kangsepp though continued to move up the field a few laps later, attacking Cooley, who slipped back down into 3rd again. Once again the passing place at the Variante della Loggia. Kangsepp makes that one work, gets through into 3rd place. And that's how the positions remain to the end of the race. Dyer taking 1st. And the first victory in the first round of season 6. Hinsley across the line in 2nd place. And Kangsepp, having done a remarkable drive, having dropped right down the field to about 8th place on the first lap, comes back to take 3rd place. So the Drivers' Championship table coming out of round 1, quite simple really. It's the finishing order of the race. So Dyer into 1st place on the Drivers' Championship, Hinsley 2nd, and Ivar Kangsepp in 3rd place. Matt Cooley unfortunately just slipped down into 4th, but the Hobnobs team are still very much in it. And looking at the Teams Championship, this is still subject to quite a bit of change. Teams still forming at this point of the season, and drivers electing sometimes to change their cars after the first round. So at the moment it's Ryan Reynolds Racing, consisting of Jason Dyer and Kirill Brzezowski in the Lamborghini, who are leading the Teams Championship. But hot on their heels are 2 Bentley teams. Big Boatley, consisting at the moment just of Paul Hinsley, are in 2nd place, and Hobnobs etc. is Matt Cooley and Tripp, and they're in 3rd. Mercs and Recreation, FTW Racing, Racing Sim Tools are in 5th, BeesWax Racing in 6th, the 488 team are in 7th, Ryan Gosling Racing, still after a teammate, is in 8th, and TWG Racing is in 9th. So it's on to round 2 at Suzuka. It's a lovely, nice, warm, sunny day again, just like Monza. The air temperature is 22 degrees, but more importantly, the track temperature is 30 degrees. Good track conditions, both for qualifying and for the race. It's coming out of qualifying and into pole position. Robert Fodor did a time of 2 minutes, a 0.579 of a second. He's decided to call his team Small Sons Audi, goes brr brr, but I'm not going to get all that out every time I mention him. In 2nd place it was Ivar Kangsepp in his Honda NSX, yet again just 8/100ths of a second behind. On row 2 is Hendrik Sauerwas in his first race in Tier 7 this season. also in a Honda NSX, alongside Andrzej Kuchar and Merckx Recreation Team. On row 3 is Matt Cooley of Hobnobs Etc. And alongside him in P6 it's John Becker of FTW Racing, RacingSimTools.com. Row 4 is Luca Ziga of the 488 team, alongside 8th position Paul Hinsley of Big Boatley. On row 5 it's ex-FSR Torpedo in his Lexus, alongside Ben Hitchcock in 10th place of the 488 team. Row 6 is all McLaren 720Ss with Wilfred Pagil, alongside another new joiner this week, Marcin Olejars. Row 7 is George Darras, alongside P14 Jamie Ellis. Row 8 is Master of Dirt, alongside P16's Kirill Przarski of Ryan Reynolds Racing. Row 9 is Harlan Hatter, alongside 18th position Conal McCarthy. Row 10 is Vasilis Amiglas of Merckx Recreation, alongside Nils Nyns of BeesWax Racing. Row 11, it's Lord Nem, still question marks about that lordship, of Phoenix Racing, alongside P22 Paul Scott of Big Boatley. Row 12, Sindri Ragnarsson, who's joined Dami Ayo to form TWG Racing as a full team, alongside Daniel Smith of FTW Racing, RacingSimTools.com. Row 13, Hakan Schott, alongside Steph Farrell. Row 14 in 27th position is Matt O'Brien, alongside Tripp of Hobnobs Etc. On row 15 is Jordan Watson, alongside Domagoj Tonzetic. Row 16 is Dami Ayo of TWG Racing, alongside Daniel Oppenhuizen. Row 17, Adam Byers, alongside 34th place Nick Kononov of Ryan Gosling Racing. I think he's still searching for a teammate. Row 18 is Uros Huzjak, alongside Steve Bezic of BeesWax Racing. And on row 18 in 37th place is Peter Pise. And rounding out the field is Carol Piquera, who failed to set a time in qualifying. Time to move on to the main race. The flag drops on the second round of the 6th season of the GT3 Championship, hosted by Apex Online Racing. This is for Tier 7, and into the first corner they go. Robert Fodor leading out Kangsep, who qualified in second in his Honda. But it's Darras who's the first victim. I'm not sure if he span or he got tapped from behind, but he's offered into the gravel trap at the side. But he's the only driver to look to have had a mishap on the first corner of the first lap. And as they move into the S's, a number of drivers did pick up penalties from round 1 at Monza, among them being Kangsep, who's going to have to do a drive-through penalty within the first 3 laps. So Kangsep already on the back foot, even though the race hasn't barely begun. Through the S's, they're all together, and everything looks clean so far. Fodor hanging on to his lead, Kangsep right behind him, but with that drive-through penalty, he's not really a factor. He's going to have to do another comeback drive like he did last week for Monza. Rest of the field coming through cleanly, but Fodor and Kangsep getting an instant lead over the rest of the field. 1 or 2 seconds as they begin to exit the S's and move towards Denga 1 and Denga 2. Darras there, having recovered from the gravel, coming round at the back of the field. Catching a little bit of grass there, one of the cars, but looked like he managed to keep it together. And he's into Denga 1. Fodor goes a little bit wide, but keeps in front of Kangsep. Into Denga 2. And underneath the bridge, coming up towards the hairpin. Everybody's still nice and tidy on lap 1. Field very close together, no big gaps forming, with the exception of the front 2 cars who are leading the way. Through the hairpin, no way through for Kangsep. But with that penalty to serve, there's not a great deal of advantage of him taking any risks on getting past. Front 2, and now another car getting away from the main bunch, following the drive through the hairpin. And that was Picara, who's had a spin and has collected another car at the back of the field. But the front 2 leading through as they go through Spoon. Field all close together. Not many mistakes being made on this opening lap. Some slight gaps at the back of the field now, caused by that spin for Picaro, where they all had to lift for the yellow flags. But it's come down the back straight. Very difficult to make a passing move on this section of the track, with 130R coming up very soon. And those gaps definitely forming at the rear of the field. There's the front two of Fodor and Kangsep leading well away. It's through 130R. And it's the other Honda NSX of Sarwas who's catching up the leading two and getting a bit of a gap to the rest of the field. Again, it looks like everybody's got through 130R safely. It's into the final chicane. Fodor to the front. Is Kangsep going to take his penalty now? No, he's not. He's elected to keep going. He's still got 2 more laps following this one as the rest of the field come through. We might see a few cars peel into the pits to serve their penalties. The BeesWax racing car still in one piece. Now we see Fodor and Kangsep going through. The rest of the field following them. But will anybody peel into the pits? Get their penalty out of the way now. Indeed they do. Down towards the end of the back of the field anyway. May as well get this penalty out of the way, get a clear track, and then try and recover the time lost. And the field crossed the line at the end of the first lap. Most of the order unchanged, apart from those who had a bit of a spin. And we see 2 cars coming through to serve their penalties following incidents last week. Fodor then leads through into lap 2. Kangsep right on his heels and electing at the end of the second lap to come in, serve that penalty. Seemed to come in pretty hot then though. And we cut to Kangsep coming out of the pits and rejoining the race. Look for that drive-through to be cleared. And it's replaced with a stop-go penalty. He was too hot going into the pits. So Kangsep's race, disaster already. Massive penalties to serve. Now put him right down the back of the field with a huge mountain to climb. Cut forward to Nyns, being pursued by Sindre Ragnarsson of TWG Motorsport, the BeesWax racing car seeking to defend. Coming onto the start-finish straight. Oh, he's missed the gear then. Went for 5th, but he stayed in 4th. He heard the engine stutter, and that was all Ragnarsson needed. Swept around BeesWax Racing, Aston Martin. Ragnarsson moves up into 20th place, taking that position away from Nyns. But just a few corners later, Nyns trying to recover from that mistake on the start-finish straight. Trying to pressurise Ragnarsson. Ragnarsson miscalculates, so lost the rear end of the car a little bit, going through Dengo 1 and 2, goes wide and tumbles down the order. I can see Tripp going through there, and Tripp's currently in 25th place, so that'll push Ragnarsson down into 25th, and now he's just right in front of his own teammate Ragnarsson, Dami Ayo. TWG Motorsports cars now nose to tail. I'll put Nyns back into 20th place. Lucky escape from that missed gear change on the start-finish straight. Catch up with Andrei Kuchar, now in 3rd place, following. Oh, disaster! Went through 130R and the car just seemed to catch the curb and spear right off into the wall. Major damage there to Andrei Kuchar's Mercedes, and obviously straight into the pits for repairs. Look at the state of the bonnet. Massive hit on the wall. That'll take some time to repair. So Kuchar was looking good in 3rd place, but that may well put him right towards the back of the field and really finish his chances for a podium finish. And here comes the unfortunate Kangset to serve that 30-second stop-goal penalty. Mountain to climb now for Kangset to get any decent result from this week. Coming forward, number of cars going wide through 130R, but Ben Hitchcock lost the car, lost the rear end of the car there going through 130R, managed to not go into the wall and recover, but that'll be a number of places lost for him. Looking into the 6th lap, we're at Jamie Ellis, who's right behind Oljaz in the McLaren 720S. Oh, Oljaz had a slight slide there from the rear of the car coming out the chicane. Might be all that Ellis needs if he's got better traction. So Ellis on the outside for the first corner. Definitely got that one made. Oljaz tucking in behind the Nissan. And now Oljaz has got Master of Dirt in the Audi, closing in on him. Coming forward to lap 7. Gilles in the McLaren going very, very wide indeed there on Spoon. As a consequence, side by side with Hatter in the Nissan GTR, going down the main straight towards 130R. But on the inside, going to have to lift, won't be able to get around 130R from that inside line. Hatter goes through, and Gilles drops down into 9th place. And then just shortly after that, Amiglas going down in the first turn, loses the rear of the car, slides off from 12th position, has to wait for quite a number of cars to come through before he's able to recover. So Amiglas recovers onto the track and rejoins behind Nils Nyns. Nils was in 17th place, so that means that Amiglas is at least in 18th, possibly 19th position as a result of that spin. And we cut to the leader on lap 14, coming into the pits for his mandatory pit stop. That'll put Sarwas into the lead. The question is if Sarwas can pull out some fast laps and consolidate. So we cut to Sarwas doing his pit stop just a couple of laps later. Sarwas in the pits and Fodor just starting on the main back straight. We see Sarwas has finished his pit stop and is coming out of the pit lane to rejoin the track. And as we pan across, there's no sign of Fodor. Looks like Sarwas may have done it. Here comes Fodor now, just crossing the start-finish line. So that's a pretty decent lead that Sarwas has managed to build just in the time that Fodor was in the pits. I wonder if he made a mistake of perhaps leaving repairs on, or made a mistake getting into his pit box. Coming forward now, Conal McCarthy being attacked by Oppenhuisen in the Mercedes. Made that pass look easy, Oppenhuisen. Maybe McCarthy made a small mistake going through 130R and lost momentum. But the Mercedes of Oppenhuisen sweeps past the Audi of McCarthy, and that's an exchange position, 16th and 15th. Catch Hinsley now, who's in 4th place at this point. Loses the rear end going into the first turn. Right off into the gravel. Has to recover. And joins back in, but he'll have lost places with that one, surely. Not like John Becker just ahead of him then, in the Lexus. Meanwhile, Steve Bezick's been resisting the pressure of Ragnarsson for quite some time. Ragnarsson goes very wide in Spoon. It looks like Steve Bezick was too busy watching that in his rear mirrors. The rear end of his car slid, losing momentum. That allows Ragnarsson to come back at him on the main straight. Who's going to get to 130R first? Looks like Ragnarsson's going to get there. Indeed he does. Somehow manages to make it round 130R from the inside line. So Ragnarsson, after a very long battle, moves into 23rd place. And once again at Spoon, another car going wide. And it's the Audi of Master of Dirt. And Gilles has got through. This will be for 10th place. Can Master of Dirt get the power down and try and come back at Gilles? He's got alongside him for 130R. Who's going to be the bravest? Not this time. Master of Dirt has to get out the throttle. Gilles goes around the outside and takes that position. Gilles again, this time attacking Hatter on the start-finish straight. So Gilles definitely trying to come through the field in his McLaren. Going for the outside line on the first turn and sweeps round the Nissan very bravely. Trusting in Hatter there to not turn in on him or let his car slide out. He's got the inside line for the next corner. It's going to be a very close battle, but I think Bajil's going to get this one through the S's. And the Nissan will drop back behind it. Master of Dirt trying to have a look there, but Bajil definitely moving through the field very well indeed. Cut towards Amiglas, down in 21st now, but loses the rear end again, going through Denga 2. And that allows Dami Ayo straight through. Approaching the end of a race now, and Oppenheisen again trying to make up places in 14th place. Just ahead of him is Schott in the Lexus, but Schott had a bit of a rear slide there through the chicane, giving Oppenheisen the opportunity to get better traction and make that pass. Side by side all the way down into the first corner. Who's going to be the last of the late breakers? It's Oppenheisen who's braver. Schott trying to find a way to get some traction. Well, no chance. Oppenheisen had better momentum. But just a couple of corners later, still trying to keep the pressure on, is Schott. And Oppenheisen goes too wide, catches the dirt, catches the grass, and Schott recovers that place. Oppenheisen briefly into 13th place, but slips back down. Almost into the last lap now. Master of Dirt loses the rear end coming out of the S's. Approaching Denga, gets trapped against the wall and has to watch a number of cars go through, tumbling right down the field. Was in 11th, must have lost about 4 or 5 places there. And we're in the last lap, coming around the final chicane. Is Sarwas, who's going to take victory in the Honda NSX. Well done for this week's round 2 victory to Hendrik Sarwas. The Honda NSX, usually not a very popular car in Assetto Corsa Competizione, but proving quite a potent weapon for Tier 7. Coming in second place, Robert Fodor in my son's Audi, goes brr brr. And that's the only time I'm going to say that this race. Well done to Fodor coming in second place. And it's Matt Cooley yet again up there at the finish, this week in 3rd place, following on from last round's 4th place. No Dyer this week, so I think that's a good chance that Matt's going to end up at the top of the Drivers' Championship. As for the BeesWax Racing, quite a satisfying result really, given the competition in this tier. Nils Nyns in number 11, looks to be finishing in 16th place, just ahead of Matt O'Brien, who's desperately trying to catch him all the way to the line. And the other BeesWax Racing entry, number 833, in 24th position, fending off Steph Farrell and Daniel Smith all the way to the line. Luckily, Daniel Smith was fighting with Steph Farrell so much, I think it kept them behind him. But quite a pleasing result from where he started and against the competition in this tier. So 24th place for the other BeesWax Racing car. So let's have a look at the official race results from round 2. Hendrik Sarwas comes across the line in 1st place, Robert Fodor in 2nd and Matt Cooley into 3rd. John Becker, good result this week, following his disaster last week, finishes in 4th. XFSR Torpedo finished 5th, Paul Hinsley 6th. Marcin Olejars in his first outing for Tier 7 Championship finishes in 7th. Lucas Ziga in 8th. Wilfried Bajil in 9th and Harlan Hatter rounds out the top 10. Other drivers of note, Ben Hitchcock of the 488 team finished in 12th. Nils Nyns for BeesWax Racing finished 16th. And Lord Nem of Phoenix Racing finished in 18th. Looking down at the second half of the field to finish, Kirill Brzezinski of Ryan Reynolds Racing finished in 20th place. Dami Ayo of TWG in 21st. Vasily Amiglas of Mercs of Recreation in 22nd. Sindri Ragnarsson, the other TWG Racing entry, was in 23rd. Steve Bezic in the second BeesWax Racing entry was in 24th. Daniel Smith of FTW Racing RacingSimTools.com was in 26th. Ivor Kansep finished all the way down in 27th, having had quite a challenging race, picking up that stop-go 30-second penalty when serving his drive-through penalty for mishaps in the previous round. Nick Kononov of Ryan Gosling Racing was 28th. Andrei Kuchar, after a bit of a disastrous trip into the wall of Mercs of Recreation, finished 32nd. George Darras, who had that off on the first corner, finished in 33rd. Tripp of Hobnobs must have had some problems because he was 34th in the end. Paul Scott of Big Boatlet was 35th. Peter Pizet seemed to have a very difficult time, struggled in qualifying and seemed to struggle quite a bit in the race as well. Eventually was a non-finisher. Looking at the Drivers' Championship and taking into consideration any penalties that were awarded by the stewards as a result of round 1, at the moment Matt Cooley of Hobnobs etc. is first place in the Drivers' Championship with 154 points. Second place for Big Boatley is Paul Hinsley, who's right behind him with just 4 points difference. Robert Fodor of Small Sons Audi goes brr brr is in third place. Wilfred Bajil, with a good drive in both events, is in fourth. Jason Dyer, who didn't race this week, slips down to 5th place for Ryan Reynolds Racing. And joining us for the first round, Hendrik Sarwas moves straight into 6th place following his victory. Jamie Ellis moves down to 7th. Ex-FSR Torpedo leaps up to 8th. Harlan Hatter moves down 1 place into 9th. And John Becker moves right into the top 10 of the Drivers' Championship for FTW Racing, RacingSimTools.com. Looking at the Teams Championship, it's Big Boatley currently in the driving seat with Paul Hinsley and Paul Scott massing 186 points between them. Right behind them though, it's Hobnobs etc. Matt Cooley and Tripp with 164 points. And it's the first non-Bentleys in third place. Robert Fodor still on his own, but managing to amass 134 points means he takes third place in the Drivers' Championship. But if he can't find a teammate by round 3, that team will be disbanded. In fourth place, it's FTW Racing, RacingSimTools.com with Daniel Smith and John Becker. Fifth place, it's the 488 team of Luca Ziga and Ben Hitchcock. It's another solo driver in sixth place, Ryan Reynolds Racing, Jason Dyer. His teammate electing to move away from the Lamborghini right after the Suzuka round. In seventh place, it's Mercs and Recreation, which consists of Vasily Amiglas and Andrei Kuchar. In 8th place, it's BeesWax Racing for Nils Nyns and Steve Bezic. In 9th place, it's Phoenix Racing of Lord Nem and Radomir Kajerski. In 10th place, it's TWG Racing, Dami Ayo and Sindri Ragnarsson. And again, another solo driver looking for a teammate, Nick Kononov of Ryan Gosling Racing, rounds out the field. And that concludes all the action for round 2 of season 6 of the GT3 Championship for Tier 7. The next round, round 3, will be taking place at the Hungaroring, but the weather prediction is for rain, so it's going to be an interesting one for sure. Please join us then to see how the race pans out and how that will impact the teams of the Drivers' Championship. Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this, please leave a like and a comment, and subscribe to catch future highlight shows or live streams of the races as they happen. Thanks for watching, see you next time round at Hungaroring, and goodbye.